Why should we want to be more spontaneous? Well, the first reason is that when we are spontaneous, our lives feel longer. So when you live a completely rigid life and every day looks exactly like the day before it, well, then you're not gonna have much to remember. You're not gonna have many memories. And if you don't remember anything, well, then it's as if life never happened. And so the more spontaneity we have, the more change we have, and thus the more memories we have, and thus the longer our lives feel. But not only that, but when we are spontaneous, our minds and our bodies work properly. When you have too much rigidity, you have too much stress. When you have too much disorganization, you have too much anxiety. But when you are disciplined and have a bit of disorder, that is, you are spontaneous, you don't have much anxiety because you don't have much chaos, and you also don't have much stress because you're not very rigid. And so when we are in the sweet spot, our brains get sharper, our ability to focus increases, our willpower increases, our ability to come up with creative ideas increases, and our stress decreases, our anxiety decreases, and our problems that arise from anxiety, stress, like being ill and being exhausted all the time, also go down. Meaning, if we are spontaneous, we have better physical and mental health, which is why being spontaneous is very important. And now the third reason why spontaneity matters is that we have to make use of our free will. If we do not use our ability to think and to act freely, it will atrophy and we will lose it. So in other words, if you live a completely rigid life, you are enslaved by your routines. And if you live a completely disorganized life, then you'll be enslaved by your vices. And in both cases, you are not free. So in order to be free, we have to be able to make decisions. And we do so by being spontaneous. That is, when we want to do something, we do it. When it is time to work, we work. When it is time to have fun, we have fun. We don't want to be too rigid or too disorganized, because both of those things are not us being free. The maximum amount of freedom that we can have lies in this sweet spot that we call disciplined spontaneity. And now you may be asking, why am I qualified to make this video? Well, I can tell you, because I have found this very sweet spot. I went from being completely rigid, I'd say a 2 out of 10 in spontaneity. That means I would get frustrated when I wasn't part of my routine, to more or less being known as the person who does a lot of side quests. Like for instance, today someone called me, and so we went on a 3-hour bike ride. Or the day before, some grandmother asked me for directions to go to a certain place. And so I just went there with her. I am not disorganized. That means I still get things done, but I am not enslaved by routines. That means I still have a lot of capacity to do those fun and random things, you could say. So I have found a sweet spot, and this is why, and this is not how it always used to be, and this is why I have made this transformation, and this is why I can tell you how to do it as well. But before I do that, I want to cover the most common reasons why people are not spontaneous, because when you can find the reasons, then you can fix it. Like knowing the problem is half the solution. And so the first reason why people are not spontaneous is because of the laws of physics. That means Someone may live in a remote place where there is nothing to do. They have no car, no bike, no communication, and there's only one bus once every 3 hours. So even if they wanted to be spontaneous, they just couldn't because there's nothing to do. And if they decided to do something, well, they then would still have to wait 3 hours for the bus. But as you might have guessed, only a tiny minority of people are constrained by physics. Most people are not spontaneous because of their brutally ineffective management, which is the second reason why most people or why people are not spontaneous. They are just brutally ineffective at managing their time and energy. Let me give you a few examples. Some people get up at 6, drive to work at 7, then work a few hours, and then they're home by about 5 or 6. And then they might conclude that there is simply not enough time to be spontaneous. But guess what? I know so many people who work more than 8 hours a day and still somehow have a lot more time to do fun things than basically everyone else. So obviously, it must follow that most people are just brutally ineffective managers, and this is why they don't have time for seemingly anything. So although everyone has 24 hours, although most people have to work 8 hours a day, some people just get nothing done, while others just have so much passion and energy and drive that they still have a better social life, a better gym life, a better spiritual life than those who are unemployed. Isn't that unbelievable? And let me tell you from first-hand experience, this is the case. Back when I used to go to school, which basically takes all day long, I still had so much time. I still had enough time to walk for 2 hours, to hit the gym for 1 hour, to record a video, and to work at the business that I was having back then. I still had all this time. I still had so much time to do things. Simply because I was good at managing myself. Simply because I didn't waste a lot of time and energy. On the flip side, most people are brutally ineffective, which means that they not only work sluggishly, they don't have a lot of deep work, but they also keep doing a lot of useless things, which stretches their work. And they also do a bunch of useless things, which means they do work that feels like work, but actually changes nothing. So they spend a lot of time working, but they don't work actually much. This is a difference. And so you can observe this yourself. Go to your hospital and ask the doctors for their personal lives. And you will see most of the doctors have amazing personal lives and have a lot of work and also have good health. While someone who's unemployed maybe have unemployed in the sense that they just are too lazy, not in the sense that they're sick or they're old or that they've been laid off. I hope that's clear. While someone unemployed may have bad health, get nothing done, and still be not spontaneous. Like, you know what I mean? It's just management. It's just the truth. Some people are just better at managing than others. And so we must get better at managing. But this is not a video on management and productivity, but instead one on becoming more spontaneous. So I can tell you one thing to become better at managing yourself, which is that you must simply get up early, get the work done without distractions, without coping that you're doing, but you're actually doing. And that means you use the 80-20 rule to do the hard things and not the things that feel like work. And then you are free for the rest of the day. And also you live a low dopamine lifestyle so that you have the ability to focus. And you also must exercise, because if you don't exercise, then your brain and body won't work properly, and your ability to focus and to work hard will be greatly diminished. And of course, sleep well, because if you don't sleep well, then you can't focus. And so, the third reason why people are not spontaneous is the one that we're going to focus on today, which is they have too much inhibition. So I used to be part of this. So I never was constrained by the laws of physics. I sometimes was constrained by inferior management, but I overcame that. But then I had too much inhibition. Too much inhibition means that I would get annoyed when I was out of my routine. I would get frustrated that I didn't get enough done because I was disturbed, or I would fear kind of going into the unknown. So now I can just go to the train station, go to a random train and drive to any random city. But I used to not be able to do so because I would constantly be worried that I forget something, that it's not right, that I need this, I need that, and so like, you get it, right? And so I overcame those inhibitions, and so this is what I'm going to share to you. I'm going to share 4 old beliefs that I had, and then I'll share the new beliefs. That means how I replace them to overcome my inhibitions. Let's get started. The first old belief is that planning saves time. The new belief, the belief that I want you to adopt instead, is that you can plan yourself to death. That means you can plan all day long without actually doing anything ever. And it usually takes longer to think than to do. Let me give you a very extreme example. A few months ago, I met a guy. He was about 60 years old. He told me that he has been thinking about attending university for the last 15 years. So even though university takes 3 years, he spent 15 years thinking about it. Now this is of course an extreme example, but we can see smaller variations of this principle in other cases. Like let's say your boys invite you to a trip on a weekend, but you are unsure whether you should go because you think you have a lot of things to do, right? What ends up happening with most people most of the time is that they won't go, but they also won't do the work. Which is kind of ironic, because when we don't go and don't do the work, we have exhaustion without the results. If we don't go and get it done, well, that's decent. But if we do go and then get it done, then what usually happens is that we do go, we relax, we live, and then our work actually becomes more productive. So in most cases, it's actually reasonable, and by reasonable I mean completely logical, to go. But because of that inhibitions and ineffective management, you may convince yourself that it's not worth to go. But then you accumulate so much exhaustion that you simply can't focus. And so you may as well just go and then work harder again. Which is much better, I think. It's better to have these periods, you work hard, and then you rest hard. When you try to do both at the same time, you kind of permanently exhaust yourself. And this is not the way. It is much better to work an hour and to sleep for 30 minutes afterwards than it is to kind of work for 5. Like, especially now in the exam period, I notice this. I notice that it is absolutely better to focus for a short time and then to meditate and then to focus again and so on, instead of just half working all day long. It's much better to focus. And so, let me give you another example. The third example for this first belief, which is that I often notice that when it comes to the gym, meditation, or going on a walk, it is in fact shorter to just do it than to think about it. Like, let's say it's 11 in the morning, and you're a bit exhausted because you've spent from 5 o'clock to 11 thinking and working. You could, of course, continue to work for another 45 minutes completely inefficiently. Or you could just go. You can just leave the door and hit the gym. In one case, you're back at 1 and can continue doing or continue living. And in the other case, you continue to stretch ineffective work for a few more hours. And so at the end, you get less done and also don't do anything. You don't go anywhere. And so I can tell you from my heart, I see this every single day with myself. Even though I know it, I still see it every day. That if I don't just go or just do, I usually waste more time. Which is why I want you to remember that it is typically easier to just go, to just do, than it is to think and to plan. Now, the second old belief is that I'm just not a spontaneous person. I want you to replace it with, the more I practice being free, the easier it gets. In the beginning, everything is awkward. The first time you go to the gym, it is awkward. The first time you speak in front of the camera, it is awkward. But guess what? You can get used to it. When you practice being free, when you practice spontaneity, it becomes easier. And now you may be asking, what does practicing spontaneity mean? Well, practicing spontaneity means a million small things. Like when you are about to go to sleep, you plug in all your devices so that they can charge. You pack lunch the day before so that you can go faster. It can also mean that you live with more leanness. That is, like these videos are a perfect example of spontaneity because I just need my microphone and my computer to record them. Nothing else. And of course, a bit of a script. Some people need all this fancy footage, all this setup, all those lights. And so, of course, they can't just decide to do something. And so they have to plan out videos, plan out every single word that they're going to say. And then they have to edit it, then have to pay someone to do the thumbnails. But you could just adopt this lean philosophy and just live your life and then record a video when there is something to discuss, which is what I do. And you can do this with every other example. Like there's always a way to add and add and add complexity and complexity and complexity. But as the geniuses will tell you, the stupid people admire complexity, the smart people, simplicity. This is why I want you to go as minimalist as possible. And you have to practice minimalism if you want to be free. Because otherwise there's just going to be so much drag. When there's a lot of drag, spontaneity dies. And this is unfortunate. So, practice being free. Practice it and it will become easier. You will have less and less inhibition over time. And this is wonderful. Now, the third old belief that you may have is that I can be spontaneous later. Like, let's say you go to the website where you can book flights. And you see that there is a flight for 15 euros from your city to, let's say, Rome, or if you live in Rome, to Athens. You see that it costs 15 euros, but you tell yourself, nah, this weekend I have too much to do. But guess what? Spontaneity, just like discipline, only exists in the present moment. If you keep telling yourself that you'll put it away, that you'll do it later, accept that it's never going to happen. Or do it now. Or, of course, there is chapters where you are spontaneous and chapters where you are not spontaneous. But if you're in university, you should be spontaneous. Like, you don't have 5 children, a job, a house, a wife. If you're by yourself, a student, then there is absolutely no reason why you can't be free, why you can't be spontaneous. Except, of course, your ineffective management and your inhibitions. But we want to overcome that. But we want to overcome the ineffective management and the inhibitions. So I'm telling you, part of the way to overcome those inhibitions is to be aware that spontaneity either happens now or it doesn't happen at all. There's no such thing as being spontaneous in the future. Because spontaneity in the future is rigidity. It's not spontaneity, by definition. And now the fourth belief, the fourth old belief, it's an implicit one, meaning people don't actually say it, but they still think it, is this one. I'm just going to make an excuse and say that I have no time. A lot of people say, I have no time, as the default response when they are too lazy to go somewhere, or they just don't want to go, or they have too much fear to go. I have observed that not saying I don't have time for a year straight has massively improved my quality of life, because it has made me a lot lighter. Like, time is not given, time is taken, right? Everyone knows that, right? But when you actually stop making those excuses, you'll open yourself to a new world almost, which is perhaps the most important way to become more spontaneous. That is to not say, I don't have time, to not pretend like you're that important and working that hard that you can't spare 3 hours to do something fun. And so, let me repeat all the inhibitions and how to replace them. Or rather, just the replacements of the inhibitions, because we don't want to repeat them. The first new belief is that you can plan yourself to death. You can plan, and never do. But it typically takes longer to think than to do. So it is simple to do, and you'll be better off just doing, just going. Second new belief is that the more you practice being free, the easier it gets. Just like any skill, being spontaneous can be practiced. And at some point, it will become effortless. The third new belief is that spontaneity, just like discipline, only exists in the present. Not in the future, and definitely not in the past. And the fourth new belief is that you must not say, I don't have enough time, because there always is, if something is important enough. In other words, stop making so much excuses and start living. And so, if this video helped you, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.